The Iranian leader cautioned his US counterpart against pursuing hostile policies against his country, saying war with Iran is the mother of all wars, without ruling out the possibility of peace between the two nations who have been at odds since the Islamic Revolution of 1979. But it was those words that prompted this response from President Trump, warning Iran never to ever threaten the United States again or suffer the consequences, the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before, continuing that the United States was no longer a country that would stand for Iran's demented words of violence and death. The Trump administration is undertaking a maximum pressure campaign in an effort to undercut Iran's powerful leadership and its economy.
Economically, we see how the regime's decision to prioritize an ideological agenda over the welfare of the Iranian people has put Iran into long-term economic tailspin. During the time of the nuclear deal, Iran increased oil revenues could have gone to improving the lives of the Iranian people. Instead, they went to terrorists, dictators, and proxy militias. Today, thanks to regime subsidies, the average Hezbollah combatant makes 2 to 3 times what an Iranian firefighter makes on the streets of Iran. Regime mismanagement has led to the rial plummeting in value. A third of Iranian youth are unemployed, and a third of Iranians now live below the poverty line.
Pompeo says they are seeking to force Iran's crude oil exports as close to zero by November this year, when US sanctions lifted by the 2015 nuclear agreement snap back into place.
Right now, the United States is undertaking a diplomatic and financial pressure campaign to cut off the funds that the regime uses to enrich itself and support death and destruction. We have an obligation to put maximum pressure on the regime's ability to generate and move money, and we will do so. At the center of this campaign is the reimposition of sanctions on Iran's banking and energy sectors.
Iran has threatened to blockade the strategic Strait of Hormuz if Washington continues its provocations.
Mr. Trump, don't play with the lion's tail. It will only lead to regret. You will forever regret it. We've been the guarantor of the regional waterway security throughout history. Remember, we established the security of oil shipping routes in history. Don't forget this. You are not in a position to incite the Iranian nation against Iran's security and interests. The Iranian nation knows its interest and sacrifices to protect it. You are mistaken.
Iran's leadership has regularly warned that they would shut down the strategic oil route in response to sanctions that would cut off Iran's oil supplies to the rest of the world, despite its full compliance with the 2015 multilateral nuclear agreement. Rouhani and Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei have both rejected calls to renegotiate a new replacement deal with the Trump administration. Sherman Briceby's SABC News, New York.